Warning: this stream is rated for mature audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
Imagine being in school and taking a test. And while you're taking the test, you feel confident you know the answers. The next day, however, your graded test comes back and a big red F adorns the top of the page. You wonder to yourself, how could this be? I thought I had all the right answers. This is a humbling moment, and it reminds us of our imperfections. Living in this world is a test. If you pass, you find success. If you fail, you often face challenges that make it even harder to be successful later. I look at the problems our world faces, and I see the vast majority of people being way too confident in what they think they know. But if everyone is so confident they have the answers, why haven't we solved more problems? True humility requires a person to start from a premise that what you don't know is more important than what you know or what you think you know. People are very defensive of what they think they know, but a humble and honest person is constantly critical of what they think they know, ensuring that they are on the side of truth, not just self-assured that they are right. Therefore, it is the pursuit of what we don't know that is going to provide the correct answers. Perhaps nothing will come of this, any more than some excellent discussion between friends. Perhaps it could change lives, minds, and hearts. Perhaps if people stop defending so vigorously what they think they know, and put aside their pride, because they hunger for real, unfiltered truth, then maybe, just maybe, we can improve our understanding of the world around us. Welcome to That Is the Question.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Tuba Swan Save the Music.org Theater. My name is Scotty, also known as EBC. On the far upper right corner is my brother, SRGC, also known as Joel, and that guy over there. And the fine people in the middle are the lovely Isnib and Short and Sweet, who have decided to deal with my bullshit for the next hour and a half or so. So welcome everybody. How you guys doing?
Very well, Scotty. Thank you for having us. How are you doing, sir?
I'm plugging along. Still alive,
Excellent.
I think.
I feel that's the best place to start. Check that. Take it from there.
Yeah, somewhere in there. How you doing, Veronica?
Doing well. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, no problem. And Joel, what's the word of the day from Joel?
I'm a human today.
Are you sure?
No,
No,
that is the question.
that is the question. Actually, no, that is not the question. Fuck off. Um, no, today's question is how necessary is makeup to the, and I put in uh, uh, parenthesis, is that a parenthesis? That's a parenthesis, I think.
Yes.
I can't remember shit today. Parentheses, female appearance, mostly because, well, just a little bit of background on this. So I've had a highly analytical mind for many years. I considered this question probably 15 years ago to start, and I've been developing things over time. Uh, More recently, that, and we're definitely going to get into that if you're taking a look at my bullet points there. The landscape has changed as to what that applies to. It's no longer just a thing that is feminine. So we're going to look at that in two parts. The first is the historical view, where it pretty much only applied to the feminine side of things, and then a more modern view where it now applies to just about everything and anything that could be considered human. So that includes you, Joel. See? You didn't think I was going to be able to tie that in, son of a bitch.
Human.
Human. That's the Chinese place down the street. Anyway.
Delicious.
Hold on a second. I want to see if I can fix this shit because Iznib has no top of his head.
He doesn't
No,
need it.
I don't need that. Don't worry about that. I'll manage with that.
You're like, yeah, that's not necessary in this day and age.
Yeah, it's my excuse, Scotty. You know what I mean?
Cut him off the eyebrow.
Cut him off at the eyebrows. There we go.
Oh, man.
You'll be Kilroy. Okay, there we go. That looks better. All right. So, due to the limited number of contributors we have today, Whitney may be joining us a little bit later. She got tied up with a family event, so she may be joining us a little bit later. But even still, with less than 4 contributors here, we're not going to be doing the hardcore format. We're not going to be timing people. I'm just gonna have those 2 minutes up there so it looks pretty, and it actually applies to absolutely nothing except for giving Joel the like support, and he can sit there, but like, yeah, that's my foundation, 2 minutes. And yeah, so it's just going to be a very generalized random discussion. I'm still going to be playing the role of devil's advocate and finding any which way I can to try to poke holes in your theories and what you say, and in an attempt to try to look at things as objectively as possible and explore the conversation as much as possible, as broadly as possible. So, but yeah, we'll just have a nice, easy discussion about this. So, to get things started, basically, like I said, I started considering this question many years ago, and it almost was a universal thing. And maybe it's just me and where I grew up and the people I interacted with and the career that I had and whatever else, but almost universally, what I found is in our society, and when I say that, I'm talking about Western civilization for the most part, which would include Europe, Americas, stuff like that. Women, or anybody that identified as feminine in this newer case, was almost required to put on some form of, some at least minimum layer of makeup to their face in order to appear in public and be considered quote unquote presentable. And I've asked many women that wear makeup over the years what their thoughts are on this subject, and almost universally, it comes down to one of two things. Either you have somehow along the line been led to believe that your natural face is not uh, good enough as it is to appear in public, and therefore you have to enhance it in order to appear presentable. Or the second most popular answer was you use it as a form to make yourself feel more beautiful. And the issue I see with that comes in is that one, there's a huge, gigantic industry based on beauty, so-called enhancement products, and not only the tons and tons of materials that are used for beauty enhancement, from different types of makeup, and all sorts of skincare products and whatever else. Also, the way those things are marketed to people, like I don't know if anybody has had the opportunity to do this recently, but if you go into any, like, I drive for Uber, so I go into a lot of different areas of the city, including areas that are not so safe. There's a lot of crime, or just kind of dilapidated, or people, a lot of people on the street, or whatever the case may be. And I see far more stores devoted to beauty enhancement in those areas, and primarily targeted to African American females. Such things as hair extensions, eyelash extension, all of these things, wigs, um, all in an effort to make it so that whoever is buying these products is then able to change from what they are naturally into something that they view as now they are acceptable to go out into the world and interact with other people. So let's just start with some basics on this. I think psychologically, the foundation of all of it is that you are not acceptable to be seen by other people unless you do something to enhance yourself, or create this mental image of yourself that then translates into a physical image of how you are presentable to the world. So let's start with you, Isnib. First of all, what have you seen in regards to this as you've interacted with other people throughout your life, and what are your thoughts on that whole psychological foundation?
Yeah, it's definitely it depends on your interpretation, but I don't have a problem with using the word problem. It's a problem, Sky. I feel.
Okay.
If we take the question, is makeup or cosmetics necessary? I guess the question becomes, how do you define necessary? Because to that, I would say no, you don't need it. But some people feel they do. But if we just take a step back briefly, looking at it historically, the first recorded use of cosmetics, it goes all the way back to the ancient Egyptians and Sumerians, and probably goes back even further than that. It's just we don't have any kind of record of it. So it's definitely something that is deeply ingrained in human psychology. And if we look at it from I suppose in a historical context, it's hard for us to know exactly. But there's always been this idea, human beings psychologically want to become, or even if not strictly become, but appear to be greater than they are in intellect or spirituality, or in terms of cosmetics, appearance. So I think that's what it came from originally. It's tied in with that. As you say, what you're alluding to, Scotty, as we go into the the 19th and definitely the 20th century, it becomes very much an industry that is the target audience is overwhelmingly females, primarily in the Western world, who want to enhance their appearance. And I think the main reason for that, maybe it's shifted somewhat in more recent years, is to compete with other women in the marketplace. That's not the, I don't know if that's the right word. Of finding a mate, of sexual attraction,
I could
of
see
trying
that.
to
I could see that
secure a
as
life partner.
I could see that as a marketplace because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, if you've ever been to a bar,
You're
that
trying to sell yourself.
yeah,
Yeah.
especially in hookup culture,
Mm.
and you go to a bar and you scope it out and you try to see who's a potential mate, even if it's just
Mm.
for that night.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. You're trying to you know put yourself across as the best candidate, or the best possible version of yourself to a potential mate. Whether, like you say, whether it's you're looking for a life partner or whether you're just looking for a one night stand. So for women, it's generally considered, and I would feel the fact that it's cosmetics in the 21st century are a multi-billion-dollar
Mhm.
year industry, that most people agree that with the correct application of cosmetics, and everyone's different. People, different people use different selection and different brands and different types and whatever. Obviously, I'm not an expert on these things. Used to rock a little bit of eyeliner back in the day, but that's behind me now.
Now, here,
um,
hold on a second. Actually, no, let's focus on that for a second, if you don't mind.
okay.
So, as a male, and I think
Mm.
I can safely assume your gender identity here. I think you've
Yes, I
probably
am
always been,
biologically
yeah.
male, and I do identify as male. So
Okay.
yes.
So let's say, because anything that came up with more visibility and the acceptance of transgenderism really hasn't
Mm.
come to the forefront of Western culture until the last 15 years tops. I would say
Yeah.
2005 it started becoming more prevalent, or somewhere
Mm.
around there. Okay, so back in the day, young brash isnib days, what was in your mind the purpose of putting on any type of makeup, if not specifically eyeliner?
I think as a man, presumably, I assume you're referring to.
Yes.
Yeah. Uh, for me, it was just the kind of the uh cultural kind of friendship group that I was a part of. When I was like, I guess I probably wore eyeliner frequently, kind of between the ages of like 16 to about 20,
Okay.
and then it wasn't a conscious decision to stop wearing it. It was just, it just fizzled out. Um, I was, this is kind of, so I guess this was like early noughties. Um, this was kind of yeah, just uh the stuff I got into and my friendship group got into around that time in terms of music was very much like the alternative scene. And at least at that time, it was very normal for,
Right.
rock stars, male rock stars to be, be out wearing makeup, or whatever, whether you're kind of looking back to the heyday of like kind of the, you know, 80s glam rock guys, the hair metal,
Mm-hmm.
or the more kind of like the into going into the noughties, like the kind of that more emo scene, or whatever it was. It'd be very normal if I was going to a gig of an evening. Not all the guys, but a lot of the guys would be wearing some kind of makeup or eyeliner, nail polish, even lipstick. So I guess I was just, it was very natural, a normal thing. I don't think anyone ever questioned me on it, but I was like, yeah, I'll give that a go. I only got as far as eyeliner, but that wasn't I don't think I probably had the confidence to go like rock lipstick, or eyeshadow or anything like that.
Did you ever accidentally stab yourself in the eye with your eyeliner pen?
I did not. No.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
pretty careful.
I was hoping for blood. Okay.
No, no, unfortunately not.
So, uh,
But to tie all that up, Scotty, yes, I think I'm a little bit off track there, but yeah, no. So that was the context of that.
so what would you say that that was essentially due to a form of peer pressure, or you trying to fit in with your group of friends that was
I
all
wouldn't
doing the
say
same thing?
I wouldn't say peer pressure because that I definitely didn't feel that, but it definitely was wanting, a feeling of wanting to belong. And I definitely got plenty of compliments from girls. They were, "Oh my god, such pretty eyes." I was like, "Oh my god, that's just." So it definitely kind of slightly worked in my favour in that regard. Not like not exactly a deciding factor, should we say? But I don't know. Yeah, I guess I did. You could make an argument I looked better. Maybe I'm a bit too old and grizzly now to bring that look back, but who could say? Um, but yeah, going back to your earlier question, Scotty, from the female perspective, I could definitely say that my first girlfriend, at the time that we were together, she would always be very well made up anytime we would go out anywhere. She said that she didn't like how she looked without makeup. She didn't feel comfortable being outside without makeup. And she spent a lot of money on it, and she was pretty like she knew what she was doing with it. She was pretty talented with it. I don't know if that. Well, I mean, makeup artist is a profession, so I guess we could use the word talent in this context. Um,
Let me ask you something there. So did you ever have a conversation with that person about how you felt about her natural face, like no makeup whatsoever? Did you ever
um,
say, I think you are perfectly fine the way you are and you don't need to have makeup, or did you prefer her more with the makeup on?
uh, I'm sure we must have discussed it. Not from the. I might have if we were going out and she was like, "Oh, I'm not ready. I've got to put my face on," so to speak. I'd be like, "Yeah, it's not important. Let's just go. It doesn't matter." And she's like, "No, I need this for the sake of my confidence and self-esteem."
Hmm.
And I'm like, "Okay, well, how can I? I'm not in a position to tell her she can't do that. If she wants to do that.
Right, exactly.
I would definitely tell her that like it's not. You are who you are. You don't need to worry about it. It doesn't bother me, it doesn't affect me. I'm still committed to you. I don't care what anybody else thinks, so don't worry yourself about it. Uh,
Was she
a
okay with not having her makeup on around you?
yeah, when we were in a committed relationship, she was perfectly fine not having the makeup around me, but because we were quite often going out most evenings, and she was at work most days, she would basically just have her makeup on all the time anyway,
Oh,
but
okay.
she didn't have a problem with me seeing her without it on. Um as she, after we split up and as she got older, we remained friends. I think she's at the point now in her life where she isn't as worried about it. She will quite happily go out without makeup on, and she's not too fussed. Um, but I can definitely say that, in my honest opinion, and obviously I think the industry, the multi-billion-dollar industry, supports this idea. She did look better. She did look physically more appealing, more attractive from a male perspective of I'm attracted to this female. She looks better. Um, whether that's a good thing or not, I just didn't make an issue out of it. Of course, you know what I mean. She was quite happy to do what she wanted. Uh, but the only final thing I'd say before we'll let Veronica get a few words in, was I've also known women, Scotty, who were the opposite. They did not wear makeup at all. Not only were they comfortable and confident in themselves without it, but almost as like a stance against the industry, a stance against what you're alluding to
Hmm.
about that societal pressure of this is expected of you. They had that within them that they were like, I don't think so. Fuck, sorry, language. I don't. Can we
Quick,
swear on
quit
this
cussing,
show?
damn it.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
I
My
don't care.
apologies. Yeah. It's like
Wait
screw
a
you,
minute.
society.
You've known me for a year, and you're asking me if swearing is
Yeah. I know
acceptable
you
on my
don't
channel. What
care,
the
but I don't.
fuck?
I don't. Yeah. Okay. There we go. They'd be like, "Yo, fuck you, society. I'm going to not wear makeup for the primary reason because you expect me to." Um. So I'd say it's been a kind of a mixed bag of women I've known over the years.
That almost
But the
seems
majority would wear makeup at least sometimes, and most of them more often than not.
that
Um,
that almost seems kind of like a feminist attitude. You know, the same kind of thing that
mm,
led to bra burning or just going
possibly, yeah.
braless, or not necessarily having the type of typical feminine appearance with having long hair. Instead, you're going to get a short
Mm,
haircut, or wear. I mean, even if you go back probably until like the 1920s or 30s, the people that started the feminist movement in the first place wearing pants. God
mm.
forbid, women wear
No,
pants.
No
Um,
way.
yeah. So, okay, that's interesting, Squid. You never wear any type of makeup at all. And I've known quite a few women that do that as well. Thank you, Wanda. Welcome. Same thing. Yeah, man, it really seems to me like it depends on almost entirely on how you're raised to view society and your role in interacting with that,
Mm,
to say this is what it's supposed to be, and that's what you picture it in your mind, and then therefore that's the goal that you set for yourself. All right, so let's welcome Casper. Let's switch over. Veronica, why don't you give us maybe some of like your experiences in the past with that, and how you personally feel about it as a female, and where you go with that personally.
Yeah, so I actually started thinking about it a lot when you originally posed the question to me. It was a few months back, and you had kind of brought up this idea, and I actually went and I thought a lot about it. And I remember growing up times where my mother and father would be going to get ready to go somewhere, and she'd say, "Oh wait, hang on, I got to put on some makeup." And I remember my father telling her, "You don't need it. You're fine the way you are. You don't need it." That was always something that was
So so he
reinforced
was
to her.
he was actively saying to her, "You're fine the way you are. You don't need to worry about this." And
Yes.
that, did that ever break through to her and make her change her mind? Oh, I don't need to actually do this.
I can't recall. Um yeah, I couldn't say either way. But I she didn't always have makeup on. I know that much. And so that's kind of like growing up, I was used to that, and I started, seeing my peer group messing around with makeup in middle school and that in that age range, and kind of wanted to do that myself because it was just like, oh, you've got this new thing that you're interested in and discovering, and I kind of want to do that too. And my mom actually kind of tried to hold off, I think, as long as possible, um, and said, "Oh no, you don't need to do that just yet. You're not quite old enough. Hang on, just wait." I always wanted to be older than I was. I
Yeah.
always wanted to grow up really quick. Um, so she kind of, I think it was, maybe late middle school, early high school, where I started actively like buying makeup and messing around with it and stuff like that. And yeah, I did go through a phase where it was like, oh, I can't do anything without makeup. I would sit in homeroom and put my makeup on for the day, and that was literally like a daily part of my routine.
So you didn't
Um,
actually do it at home before you left. You
mhm,
you were going into school, not
yeah,
necessarily made up the way that you wanted to be, and then would do that in full view of your peers in homeroom.
yes. Yeah,
So
so I don't know. I
so
don't know if that's unique
well
at
no
all, or
no I that just kind of sounded interesting to me. Do you
Mhm.
then, looking back on this, think that it wasn't so much about being presentable to other people, but that was just a thing that you had to do that was part of your daily routine, and that's where you fit it in?
I
See,
think so.
that's even more interesting to me, because that's not some necessarily somebody saying I have to have my quote unquote face on before I go out in public. That's just, it's something you do, and there's
Yeah, it's
not
like I want to do
necessarily
my makeup, and here's where when I have time.
not necessarily something or any reasoning behind it.
Mhm.
Um, that's interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, I've gone through phases where sleep is more important than makeup to me. So I'll sleep as long as I can, get up, get a shower, go to work, and I won't have a stitch of makeup on my face.
Damn right.
Uh, but I like to wear makeup. I like to play around with different colors, and it's kind of like an artistic outlet for me. So I like wearing it personally.
But at the very least, it seems like you're not of the type, and the experience you just relayed about how it was when you were in school, it doesn't seem like you're the type of person that feels it's absolutely necessary to go out and it's okay if you go out in public without any makeup on, and you have the confidence to do so if you so choose.
Absolutely. Like if I'm going to the store, we're going to a restaurant. Now there are occasions where I will say, yes, I absolutely, if I'm going to a wedding or if I'm going to like a fancy work event, of course I'm going to make sure I
What
look as presentable as possible
oh
in those
what
cases.
what's the driving force behind that mentality to you, that if it's a special event, you have to wear makeup?
It's more of I just want to. I just want to look my best.
And looking your best includes enhancing your face.
Yes.
Okay. Now, have you ever wondered, to yourself personally, have you ever thought of why that is a thing that women do but men do not typically? Has that ever crossed your mind, and have you ever considered like the different aspects of that?
Maybe not in that particular context. But I have never had a man look at me and say, "Oh my God, you don't have any makeup on. Are you okay?" Or "You don't look quite right. Are you feeling all right?" I have had women when I show up someplace with not a stitch of makeup on, and they're like, "Oh, you look sick. Are you okay? Oh, you look tired. Are you all right?" I've never had a man do that, but a woman, absolutely. I've had that situation happen multiple times in my life.
See, now that's I had a friend that I knew that was a nurse down in North Carolina, and she always wears makeup. Doesn't matter, every single day. And one day she overslept and was really rushed, didn't put on her makeup, and the first thing that her supervisor said to her as soon as she walked in the door, "You don't look too good. Are you okay?" So it seems to me, now that you've relayed that experience, that it's almost as if what you're really trying to accomplish with that on a specific level, and not you personally, I'm just saying anybody, is there's almost this like inborn controversy between women that says, "Oh, you don't have makeup on, you look like shit."
Mhm.
So it almost seems like women are the ones that reinforce each other to say you need to do this in order to be presentable in this space.
I would say, yeah, in certain aspects, that's the case. Yeah.
Has anybody that's in the chat, Isnib, Joel, or anybody in the chat, have you ever heard of a man telling a woman in any circumstance, you don't have makeup on, or you don't have the right makeup on, or you don't have
Yes.
enough makeup on, and you look like shit because of it.
Yes.
What was it?
I can't give a specific instance, but I have heard stories from people who hardly had any reason to fib or exaggerate about it, about how men have been at bare minimum passive aggressive towards women. But of course, these are stories of specifically abusive men or men who had no problem putting other people down, women or other men otherwise.
Okay, so somebody who's a narcissist.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I've probably heard of sorry, Joel, in similar instances, and I think it's probably, you would agree with me, Joel. It's the guys who might do that. It's not a makeup thing. They're just using anything as an excuse to attack or, you know,
Yeah,
belittle someone.
yeah. Typically, they're going to belittle anybody at that rate. But yeah, that doesn't exclude women or dressing or makeup or any aesthetic thing.
Mm.
But I've heard just as many stories about what I was talking about in chat, which is women just being overly competitive with each other for no reason. I've seen that firsthand.
And Apheline says in the chat, only gay guys, to be honest. So I could see that, because they're
Oh, yeah.
they're kind of like filling this feminine role in the social interaction, where they're maybe doing the same thing, and they see that as part of being feminine, is to compare themselves to other feminine identities, or
And so they might have that same sense of competition, too,
yeah.
where they
Okay.
might belittle a woman because perhaps a gay man thinks he's doing a better job at being feminine or whatever the case may be.
So I actually find it kind of apt, is that you describe this at the outset as a marketplace, because it's almost like you go out, or females in general feel like they go out into the world with that being part of what they have to deal with on a daily basis, is competing with other women for the attention of men. And therefore, all they have, then maybe they're looking for ways to make themselves more presentable, and the fashion industry is right there to cram it down their throat and said, hey, go buy our makeup, and that you can get what you want.
Totally. If all women around the world tomorrow, Scotty, said, you know what, we're not doing it anymore. Nobody, no women ever wear makeup ever again. It'd be a new world, but it'd be a level playing field again. But all it would take was one woman to go, actually, screw you, Richards. I'm still gonna wear makeup, and then she's got that +1 bonus.
Yeah,
over
then all of
the
a
other
sudden
women.
she's above everybody else.
Exactly. So everyone has to partake of the system to not have a disadvantage. It's a completely different thing, obviously, but just then it made me think of the analogy. Think of like mixed martial arts, sports, cage fighting. They or boxing or anything. They all cut weight. It's kind of sanctioned cheating. You have to pretend you're a lighter weight than you actually are. If everyone actually just didn't do that and actually competed at their actual natural weight, it'd still be a level playing field and it would be fair. But the fighters would be healthier and they have more energy, and you get a better fight out of it. But because it's not in the rules, all it would take is one guy to say, "Well, you fellas are not doing it, but I'm going to do it." Now I've got that +1 bonus. So it's every whichever the dynamic it's in, everyone is agreeing to. They feel they have to do it to not be at a disadvantage to everyone else. But by gaining that advantage, it actually nobody has an advantage. It just levels the playing field.
So then it almost becomes, you've got these people here that wear makeup and have become quote unquote presentable, and then these people here who have decided that's not for them, they don't want to do that, but they're already being viewed by so many other people as not as attractive. It's that, see, and that to me is a very dangerous kind of social dynamic, because not only does it lead people to believe that they are not worth whatever they are actually worth, or lower their self-esteem or that. But then it just keeps on feeding on itself. It's a negative feedback system
Hmm.
that just keeps turning and turning, and let's go spend some more money on makeup. All right. I wanted to read this Cage's comment. I don't know. You feel like the story that I mentioned might not have anything to do about makeup itself, but more so change the routine. Every single day she comes in with everything done, and then one day she doesn't. It could just be more of the change in the routine and actual concern that something is wrong. Yes, that definitely is a possibility. However, I know very well the woman that was her supervisor, and she was talking about, and that was a complete and utter bitch that would not hesitate to poke at her in order to make her feel like shit just because she was an underling. So in that case, I know specifically that it was the case that she was doing that on purpose to make the person feel like crap. Kathleen says that, like, photo filters, Snapchat filters, if you don't use them, it's like you're behind everyone else. Yeah, that's the other thing coming into play. Not a lot with this specific discussion, but I mean the amount of time that the youth of Western civilization spends taking pictures of themselves and putting them out on the internet for their friends and family to view, and it seems only to garner likes and attention. And then on top of that, the necessity of enhancing your portrait with filters and whatever else. You can't ever post a picture of yourself with, oh, you know what's related to that I've spoken to a lot of other people? How everybody smiles for a picture. Like, that's just a natural thing. We're okay, everybody, we're going to take a picture. Everybody stand together. Smile. And that's not an accurate representation of anything except people posing for a picture. That's not real life. That's not what's going on in people's lives, because we all have things going on, and we don't walk around all day long just smiling. you know so it's like, well, we want to take a representation of your best, which goes back to what you were talking about. If you're going to an important event, you want to look your best. Well, why what is the psychology behind wanting to present yourself at its best, whatever it is you decide that is, because of the importance of the event? Or even if something as simple as a picture, why do you have to present yourself as being happy simply because of pictures? So anytime I look at photography, I'm always constantly looking for things that are not posed, specific things where they're trying to make things, make it look like you're being represented at your best, because it's not real. It's just another form of fake to me. And I mean, really, that's the crux of it. If I was to give you my opinion on it, uh, the entire makeup industry is, if that's the entire scenario, is to just go out and try to present your quote unquote best form to other people, and you do so by not presenting who you really are, but by trying to cover that up and make yourself appear as something that you're not actually, then I just kind of feel that's like being fake. So let's transition then to the next segment of that. We didn't really comment so much on what is being achieved. We did a little bit. Well, what makes a certain level of makeup too much? Like mom was saying in the chat there, that there's somebody who puts on makeup to the point where they actually look like a clown, because they have been led to believe that that level of makeup is what is necessary to be presentable to the world. and they literally end up looking like a clown. And I've seen other people that don't necessarily have any major psychological issues, but just they've, you know, maybe you've seen older women that sometimes do that. Just take a spackling knife and just put on 2 inches of foundation because that's what they've been led their entire life to believe. That's how you put on makeup. So, Veronica, you want to start with that?
Sure. Well, I mean, I think the thing of that is if it depends on who is saying it's too much makeup. Is that person themselves saying I'm wearing too much makeup, or is it someone else in society looking at
Someone
them and
else, yeah.
saying you're wearing too much makeup?
And it's extremely subjective.
Right, exactly. So how do you draw the line as to what's too much? It would be like too much for your taste.
Right.
Hmm.
So then the person who's putting all that on, it's not too much for their taste. They maybe feel their best like that. And it's just a judgment, you know?
Hmm. So, in your
Me on the G care.
yeah, in your mind, is there any type of reasonable statement to be made to somebody that you feel wears too much makeup to let them know that maybe it's too much for everybody else? In other
Not my
words,
place to say.
not okay, and that's
Not my
fine,
place to judge. Yeah.
right? Is
I think that that's a big problem in society is that we want to judge and we want to like force what we want on other people. And if that person wearing that makeup is not hurting anyone, why do we care?
um and again, I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Perhaps what you're doing is you're being a friend to someone who you care a lot about for, and you see that there's maybe some kind of psychological uh, action in their the way they do things that is in the long term going to harm them. Like for instance, they put on gobs of makeup and they feel that's the best way to attract somebody as a mate, and they're just not going to do that because it's garish or whatever, you view it in that light. So maybe as a friend you would say something to them and try to counsel them and say this really isn't working for you. Do you see any possibility for that scenario?
I mean, I suppose in that context, I think you could phrase it a little differently. Um,
You look like shit. Wipe it
Yeah, don't.
off.
I mean, that's what I'd say to you, Scotty.
Okay.
But no. Some people are a bit more sensitive.
And I'd be like, you're right.
No, but yeah, but you're right. It does come back to what is the purpose, and we've kind of
Okay.
put kind of two ideas forward. One is to feel more confident in yourself out in society, how you interact with other people, or maybe not. Maybe some people would just put the makeup on at home on their own, and they're not even seeing another human being during the day. That's also perfectly acceptable. Or are you trying to attract a mate? Veronica's right. If it's the first one, they're just doing it for themselves. Let them do whatever they want. Don't even question it. If they look a bit wild compared to whatever the convention is, but they don't care, just who gives a damn? Just let them do it.
Right.
But you're right, Scotty. If you intuitively kind of have a vibe that it's for the second reason, they're trying to attract a potential mate, in whatever spectrum that takes place, and you feel that their particular combination of makeup they are using is wildly out of the conventional standard. As a friend, you probably would be better to say something or have that conversation with them. what you would say and how well they would take that. I think that would depend on the person in question, wouldn't it? So I've never had to have that conversation, and I don't imagine I will. Like I said, with you next week, Sky, when you're experimenting. But I don't know. I don't know. Veronica, have you ever had a female friend who maybe you felt that way about, whether you've spoken to them or not?
I don't think so.
No.
No.
And that's perfectly fine. That probably is an extreme scenario because I mean, I've said before I'm a hardcore libertarian. So whatever you want to do with your body, your face, your sex, your identity, your lifestyle, I don't give a shit as long as you're not attempting to harm other people or control other people. Have at it, do what the hell you want.
As long as you don't order your steak well done.
Yeah, and because otherwise, then we're gonna fillet you. Um, yeah, or what was that Donald Trump did? Put ketchup on his steak.
Oh, I'll fight you.
Wow. We
Um,
could sell some tickets for that. Donald Trump versus Joel.
I think the steak is gonna win. So. Joel, did you have any thoughts on that segment of it before we kind of move forward?
Yeah, both actually. I wanted to bridge the gap between Isnib and V by using myself as an example. I do wear makeup, and it started dawning on me when Isnib was talking about his younger years, wearing eyeliner and going to the club and looking sad and listening to Depeche Mode or whatever it was, The Cure maybe. Now I hung out with goth kids in high school, and I listened to punk and I listened to emo and all of it. And most of you know I'm in a metal band. We don't do any gimmick appearance wise other than the sort of mild aesthetic of we're not going to wear pajamas on stage. We wear jeans and jean vests, and me and my bass player both paint our nails sometimes, black or gray or whatever. I do this because I like the way it looks. But before I say but for no other reason, I realize that sometimes a reason comes from a deeper reason. And whatever that is, that whole fitting in thing you guys were talking about, or whatever, the crowd is what they're doing. And just the way that the makeup industry pushes certain types of looks for certain reasons and makes bajillions of dollars off of it, there's similar aesthetics that happen, and there's a huge market for it and money in it in in the scene, in rock and metal and punk and all of that, that might have originated somewhere or potentially had a a harmless origin, but became a household thing that somebody realized somewhere. Oh, we can make a market out of this, and so maybe that's a derivative of whatever it was, wanting to go to Hot Topic as a teenager at the mall, or because they sell the T-shirts of the bands I like and my friends like to go there or whatever else. But in the current moment, I think what that's transformed into is I do it because I like the way that I look in it. Not necessarily because I'm appeasing someone else. But to give a counterexample of that, I actually wear eye makeup too. I have, I guess it's eyeshadow. I don't know much about makeup. I never got into that. But it's usually an off-white or a pale tan color. That this is one thing I do and started doing as a pick-me-up because I wasn't satisfied with my appearance. What I do is I put a little around my eye and under my eyebrow, and what it does is it covers up the sort of the red veins or dark circles underneath. I do this sometimes to feel more confident. I actually keep this eyeshadow in my car, and if I'm going out and I'm looking nice and I want to feel confident, I put on a little eye makeup sometimes. It's not like the eyeliner, the goth aesthetic, but I do that. That one I do because I think I feel better. It's almost like an anti-aging thing. So you might go back to the argument of, well, why the hell do you care what people think you look like, or why don't you want to look your age, or why is everybody in the world want to appear younger than they are? You know, maybe we're all fucking brainwashed. But I put in the minimal amount of effort for those things, and I spend the minimal amount of money, so I'm somewhere in between those two, I think.
But well, you said the word and yes, I did catch that, Cage. I just didn't want to interrupt him. You know, I was thinking it as well that Joel is full of doo doo. This is rated mature, but we are not mature. Thank you. Um, the
Doo-doo.
You said confidence.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and I think that's, you know, we discussed that as being one of the overarching themes is uh a person who does not feel confident in their appearance. So if we're literally talking about their self-esteem or how much they like themselves as a person, how much they like their appearance, I have known an unbelievable amount of people in my lifetime that have such huge self-esteem and self-image issues.
Practically everybody I know.
Okay, and if then you're turning to this method of covering yourself up
That's
in
it.
order to have confidence in interacting with other people,
It's disingenuous.
it's disingenuous. That's my point to all of this.
And it's feeding the
That negative feedback loop that I was
Yeah.
mentioning before.
vicious cycle.
So I guess obviously there's all these different reasons that somebody would actually want to do that, and varying degrees of what they feel is going to either make them more confident or make them feel acceptable or want to achieve a specific thing. So first of all, I wanted to say hi to Smartsy and Slick Mick. Welcome in. Thank you for joining us. And Slick Mick's one comment here. I wanted to say that it would be too much, in his opinion, if it changes the whole look of the face instead of contouring that some people do, for changes of beauty enhancements to quote someone different looking entirely. So entirely changing your appearance from what it is naturally or what it might appear with a little bit of an enhancement to looking like almost an entirely different person because you have put so much on. Um, so that's kind of interesting to me. Um, so now let's actually, you know what? Let's take a short commercial break, and we'll come back and we'll start. We'll kind of shift over to an entirely new segment of this discussion. So bear with us. All right, welcome back. If you've just joined us recently, this is the Tuba Swan, SaveTheMusic.org Theater. Our sponsor this month is Tuba Swan, and he requests you go to SaveTheMusic.org and check out their foundation to help keep music in the public schools alive and well, and he would appreciate you doing so. So in discussing all of this, first of all, I wanted to mention this because you just commented, Smartsy, about uh, not understanding as a cisgender person, but I don't want you to think that I have not in my obsessive compulsive disorder addled brain considered as many possibilities as I possibly can, which may not include that, but I definitely have, even though I'm not living in that perspective, and attempted to be in that person's shoes. And I think that anybody that truly tries to be objective can do that. So at least I have attempted to look at it from that position, and I think quite a few people that are present in chat and on screen have also done that. So we're going to do our best to attempt to look at it from that viewpoint, and the point being, yes, I can certainly see, and not just anybody who is transgender or anybody that is having identity issues is more prone to suicidal tendencies, but anybody that has that kind of a thing, because there are so many people that deal with suicidal thoughts and emotional support issues, and the ability to find their self worth, to then use that as a prop to move forward, the foundation for continuing and still trying to work out their issues and deal with life and continue living. This goes for anybody with that, and I don't think it's just limited to people with sexual identity issues. Anybody that has self-image issues. So if you like, for instance, the one of the other people that I knew had relayed to me about how their husband was such a narcissist and so verbally and emotionally abusive that even though they were physically, in my opinion at least, a very beautiful person, had beautiful face, beautiful body, very attractive from what I could see. And of course, that's just my opinion, but they thought they were absolute scum of the earth. So let's everybody chime in however you feel is appropriate to what you feel is necessary for a person who has self worth and self image issues to doing things to remain living, so that they aren't committing suicide, or they the things that they do to deal with that in the long term, even if it is makeup or these other things that improve their self-worth. Let's start with Joel this time.
I missed the first part of the question.
Uh, Anything relating to your thoughts or experiences dealing with people that use things to build up their self-worth in order to remain living.
Aesthetically, though.
It could be aesthetically, it could be mentally, anything.
Well, because I think everybody has those things.
Yes, but not everybody struggles with suicidal tendencies or depression.
Yeah.
So have you seen anything?
I'm not understanding the question specifically.
Oh, maybe I'm not wording it properly. Uh, isn't it, Veronica, do you understand what I'm talking about?
So, sorry, Scott, you asking if we know of any specific examples of anything we or anybody we know uses as a, I won't say crutch, but as a mechanism to give one's life meaning?
It could be that, or just like experiences, things you've come across in your life that are methods by which people do that. Ways that people, I mean, aside from makeup, which is obviously the main topic, but anything that people do to fight, depression or suicidal tendencies in order to continue existing. Have you come across anything like that?
No, I can't. I don't know. Spirituality, I guess.
Oh yeah, that's
Philosophy.
a big one. Yeah.
I guess. I mean, I can only speak from my own perspective. I don't feel that I've ever been suicidal, but there was definitely a time, several more years ago. There's definitely a period in my life where how the best way to word this accurately. I definitely wasn't suicidal, but I wasn't too bothered if I was alive or not, should we say. I didn't have specifically destructive behaviors. I definitely have the desire within me that I wish my life were better and I had more um, desire to exist. But there's definitely a period where I didn't want to, and the eventual the way I personally got out of that was just kind of, I guess, perspective change. Kind of like, I thought things were bad for me mentally because I thought existence was a certain way, and then I just looked at it from a different perspective, um, so to speak. I don't know if that really helps too much, but I could definitely see if there was something I could do, which was maybe a relatively small thing, like wearing makeup, which would give me the self-esteem and, a minor self-esteem and a minor confidence boost that could, you know, lead to as a stepping stone to something else.
Yeah.
I could definitely see that being a thing. I'm not immediately thinking of any specific examples.
Okay.
Yeah, if
That's
I
all
can
right.
jump
That's
back in, because I can
Yeah.
play off of that. And I think that's where I was getting confused. Is this little quality of life improvements that we do that that should help with that. Like I have things in my life that give me meaning and that make me happy, and I focus on those things to be less depressed, so I don't feel suicidal. But I can actually, I think, answer your question even better with another example. Was dating a gender fluid, non-binary person, and one example of the one of those little quality of life improvements was them wearing a binder because they were not happy with the fact that they had breasts. Period. Which, I mean, as somebody who identifies mostly as a male, I also get, because you and me and everybody in our family has big man boobs, and it sucks, and people handle it differently. But it's caused me a lot of self-esteem issues and shit over the years. And going, I don't take my shirt off when I go to the beach, stuff like that. When I go to the beach, I'm not wearing socks in the sand.
I didn't.
Inside joke.
Yeah, we had a conversation about how Joel has not removed his socks since 1972.
favorite item of clothing.
Yeah, they just stay on permanently. He has super glued them in place.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
Binder is one of them. Haircut, and I wanted to touch on this earlier because it's not just necessarily makeup. Why do people get haircuts? Why do people get tattoos? Why do people buy snazzier looking clothing for any of this? And so one of those things was basically a compression shirt.
all right.
Binder is the term.
See, and I don't know if it's just me. The fashion industry as a whole has kind of confused me for a long time, personally, and I just go and I look at that as almost like a little bit of a frivolous thing. Like, I mean, in the end, when you get buried, yeah, you're gonna have makeup on, but it doesn't matter because nobody's going to see the inside of the casket with you in it after it's closed, ever, unless there's grave robbers or something. They want to dig you up as a mummy or something.
I hope.
So none of that stuff lasts beyond death. None of that stuff lasts beyond a certain level. I mean, if you put on makeup and then you come home and then you just wipe all that makeup off, then you're back to your natural state. And it doesn't matter because you're not trying to like put on a facade for anybody. And I've always been of the mind that even if you've got self-image issues, the best thing that you can do to help yourself is to start to come to grips with who you are as a person and love who you are, and then realize that trying to change who you are to suit anything, including what you think society needs to see from you when you go out and interact with people, is just delaying the solution, which is to feel better about yourself as you are. Because unless you do things like go ahead and have a gender transition surgery to change who you are to who you want to be, and you do these, more permanent changes, um, it's all kind of like relatively short-term stuff that doesn't actually, and to me that's almost analogous to um, putting a band-aid on a broken leg instead of setting the broken leg. So if
We
you
all do that. I mean, we solve our short term, we solve our problems in the short term so we can make it further. I'm really tired, so I drink caffeine or, you know, whatever crutch it is that helps you get to the next day or the next step.
Yeah, maybe the
We
crutch is
always we
therapy.
always have short term things to lead up to the big things.
but and I'm speaking in my devil's advocate voice now. Does that not prolong the issues instead of making solid advancement towards a long-term solution? I mean, I could see it if it's like maybe a short-term issue, like you said, drinking caffeine to wake up for the day or whatever the case may be. But let's say you have a long term issue like your self esteem is broken and you are not confident with who you are as a person and all that. Uh, does it necessarily address uh, the solutions that you actually need to, the steps you need to take to enact long term advancement and change?
Directly, but if it helps you get to the next stage.
Mm,
Okay, I can see that.
yeah. So probably not Scotty, but as Veronica's saying, if it gives you if it gives you another roll at the dice, so to speak, gives you another chance, another get out of jail free card, or however you want to phrase it, then it's still, it's still very much worth it. So it may not be helping in the long term, but it's given you another opportunity to try and have another go at finding another solution in the long term. So you could argue yes, depending on your interpretation.
Okay. Oh, I just had a quick comment on we were talking about the binding. Um, I've worked in bars for many years. I don't anymore, but I remember there was a woman that came in that was a dancer at various strip clubs. And she was more well known in the Cleveland area for having ginormous breasts. I'm talking like larger than probably any woman you've ever seen. And she would come in regularly to the bar. And being in my DJ alcove, I happened to overhear a conversation that I probably wouldn't have heard if it wasn't for the way the acoustics were set up of this woman being approached at the bar by a man who walked up to her and just opened with "I like your breasts," and
Ballsy.
she she was taken aback a little bit, but not too much because she kind of gets that attention all the time.
Mm.
And she said, "Well, is that the only thing you like about me?" And he kind of stumbled, but he said, "No, I just wanted to put that out there up front because it seems to me that you may or may not like the fact that you've got huge breasts, and I don't want you to hate me because I like your breasts."
Interesting.
And that didn't work out to his benefit, but I thought that was a
Can't
really,
imagine why not.
yeah, I thought that was an interesting conversation. Um, but
Give it a go at least.
the,
It sounded
the
like he was trying to be honest.
yeah, but the reason that I thought of that is because I think it's really interesting. So like let's say you're a person who has a very specific unique feature about yourself, and and you've come to hate it because you feel it either draws too much attention or that's all people see in you, or you're just tired of that being the thing that defines you. So it's something you want to change. And yet somebody approaches you and says, well, I like this thing about you. And I find you attractive because of this thing. And they end up rejecting that person because they actually hate it. So what I'm wondering is, from my personal perspective, I look at that and I'm far more attracted to any person of any sex if I see their bare face. Like they're not wearing any makeup whatsoever. I see who you naturally are. And that to me is more attractive than any type of makeup or any other type of enhancing product, because I personally value you as you are as something that's actually attractive to me. So if I look at somebody who tries to cover up their natural face because they're not comfortable with who they are, and I say to them, I like your natural face, I would like to see more of it, and they're like, oh well, screw you because this is who I am, you know. And I'm just going, okay, we're on two just completely different trains going in different directions.
Well, then you could say that part of your attraction to someone is also somebody who is more comfortable being who they are.
Yeah,
Maybe that's a personality trait that you find
but
attractive.
it
A
is.
lot of people do. A lot of people do.
It is, but if 90% of people out there aren't comfortable with who they are, who does that leave me with?
Yeah.
You know. So, Isnib, you look like shit. Thanks for joining us. I'm glad you're here.
I know, and I'm very proud of it, Scotty.
Isn't it? You should have put on
lean
eyeliner.
into your strengths. I, you know what? If I still had it knocking around, Joel, I was it did pass through my mind to actually put some on for this episode, just to, you know, as it would have been appropriate.
I just took off my nail polish too.
They were calling for an emo Isnib stream here.
Yeah, did you miss
chat,
that?
So
Yeah.
Damn.
I got bits on that.
When can we expect that?
I mean, I don't know. I suppose I can probably get some cheap eyeliner off eBay for a quid or so.
My Chemical Isnib.
There you go. Yeah. So a lot of different ways to look at this, I think. All right. So let's now shift a little bit and let's talk about, because this has completely fascinated me, and maybe it's because I am just a white male. I'm not actually cisgender, but let's take a little bit of time to now compare what it was historically with what it is now, with more modern views of sexuality. And let's say in the past, it was primarily just females. Anybody that was a woman or identified as a woman, even though there was a lot of stigma that surrounded anybody that identified as transgender, or you know, the big hoopla that used to be in the 80s surrounding like drag queens and things like that.
Well, I could think of one exception.
Okay.
Whatever the hell the founding fathers were doing with the curly wigs and the white powder and that weird shit, and they looked like
That's
they were
true.
all going on stage to do Shakespeare.
That's
weird
true,
as hell
yeah.
to me.
The big wigs.
Although, yeah, I
It's,
mean, makeup as far as
There's
that,
a story behind it.
yeah, makeup as far as that probably wasn't quite as prevalent unless you were younger. Yeah, but there was, yeah, quite a bit of that. At the very least, the wigs, um, clothing. Clothing was the primary thing. It was seen as like a status symbol if you had on fancy clothing. So lots of ruffles and lace and, you know, flair and
We
colors.
should bring that back.
Yeah. Well, they kind of did in the 70s.
Uh,
There was a lot of flair in the 70s, I think. But the I think overall, though, especially into the '80s and the '90s, it was seen as a primarily female thing. In fact, how many times did you see maybe or have like heard of or watched in entertainment these concepts that you weren't a man if you wore makeup? Men that were beaten as a child because their father caught them putting on makeup or things like that. And then it kind of changed over time as different sexualities and different identities became more accepted in society. And now it's a lot more liberal in that you can pretty much do just about anything you want, makeup or tattoo wise or anything like that, and be accepted, because there's no longer this mandate in society that you need to look quote unquote normal in order to operate in a job setting or something like that. So does anybody have any thoughts on that comparison?
Yes.
Okay.
You were partially correct, though, and I'm sure Smartsy would back me on this, though. If you are a transgender person, though, you will still be judged in a lot of scenarios. It's kind of both ways from what I see. As a transgender person, you have more opportunities than ever now, but at the same time, there's still just as many people judging you or denying you opportunities, or even it be caught in a dangerous situation where somebody doesn't like you, they beat your ass on the street.
Yeah, that's what Smartsy's just saying there, and I could see that, because there's still. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to
Yeah.
diminish what
Yeah.
people that are in the LGBTQ community are saying about what they've had to deal with, or and on that same note, what people of color have been saying for decades about what they have to deal with on a daily basis. I'm not trying to diminish that in the least, because there are most definitely still a shit fucking load ton of people out there that are bigoted and racist and all this other crap. And I totally understand that that's a very real problem in society and how people interact with each other. But at the same time, this is not the 1950s. America is not now, or even the UK, as racist as it was in the 1950s. There's a lot that has been overcome in that.
Yeah, there's a lot more acceptance for both
And
different races and genders.
And it's not nearly as bigoted as it was in, say, the 1960s and 70s, when you could not be that, or you know, I mean, obviously there's still a lot that has to be handled, and there's so much further that people have to go to be more appropriate and tolerant. But I definitely think we've made some kind of progress there. So does anybody want to talk on that aspect of it, the transition, not only the crime rate and how things, people have been viewed in society, but more specifically the makeup aspect of it, the difference that we see between 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and today?
Yeah, I can kind of touch on it just a little bit. I don't have a ton of experience or knowledge about it, but I will say for a very long time I subscribed to the makeup box type industry, and they'd send products in a box every month. And one time, out of all of those times, one time they sent a product that was specifically, it was like a lip gloss, kind of like a bluish tint, and it was specifically marketed as a lip gloss for everyone, like regardless of gender, it was for everyone to use. So like that, just being that one time, it stood out to me because everything else was just, the eyeliner, normal stuff that you get. But this was like, oh wow, here's a company that is actually marketing makeup towards everyone, male, female, in between. And that kind of is a step in the right direction, but because it was so niche, clearly more needs to be done.
When did you subscribe to that? And
Oh, I for years I had that.
do you know when? Do you know when you stopped subscribing to that?
Last year sometime.
Okay, so up until last
Yeah.
year, why did
Up
you
until yeah,
cancel
I
your membership?
probably had it for about 3 years.
Why did you cancel your membership?
I had too much stuff. I couldn't use it as fast as I was getting it. I recently went through it all, and I have probably like, Isn't I'll send you some eyeliner. I have like 15 black
There we
eyeliners.
go. Now you
Uh,
can't even say no to it.
Perfect.
Is
I'll take
Got no
one too.
excuses now.
but yeah, it was just too much stuff. But it was just that one time that I got something that was specifically marketed towards everyone.
was the company that you were going through specifically marketed towards women solely?
For the most part, yes. It started to change towards the end. They in the pamphlets and stuff, they started to use like male models, male makeup artists,
Okay.
but that was, kind of rare still.
Okay. And that was as recent as a year ago.
Mhm.
Um, how much, if you don't mind me asking, how much money do you spend on any type of beauty or appearance enhancing products?
Now?
Yeah.
Well, I'll guess nothing now, Veronica, because you've got it all
Yeah, I
stashed
mean,
up.
I've got a stockpile. So some of the subscription box was like 25 a month. And then I guess it depends if you're gonna throw in like hair products and getting your nails done and all of that type of stuff. I don't know, $100 a month, I'd say.
Yeah,
Okay.
interesting.
Oh,
That's
and we could probably draw a pretty clear, definitive line between hygiene and appearance enhancing. Like,
hmm.
yeah, something to change your appearance from what it naturally is, as opposed to just taking care of your hygiene and your body, and not smelling like a garbage pit like I do, and you know stuff like that. See, I've always, I mean, I don't want to, I'll say right out, I'm a slob because I wear clothes until they're more holy than the Pope, and just I don't really care. I would never spend any type of money on makeup unless it was for something for a theater show or something like that, and even then, I haven't done any of that for decades. Um, but yeah. So to me, it's not ever something that I would spend money on. It is, what were you going to say there?
I was going to say, Veronica, that's pretty. I assume, it seems pretty cool to your own credit. I would imagine the amount that they're sending the subscription box that you're getting once a month, that thousands of other women and possibly even men are also getting. They've kind of obviously balanced that out, whatever they think is like the average amount that you would be using in a month, and the fact that you're using a lot less than that could
Yeah.
somewhat lend itself to suggest that you are, although it's something you like to use and you feel it is an enhancer for you in various regards, it's not something you're reliant upon, or at least
Right.
if it is, it's less than the average person out there.
Yeah.
So good on you. Yeah. There was
Um,
one aspect, Scotty, I wanted to
sure,
make sure we touched on before we wrap up the stream, but I
sure.
don't know if you want to carry on with
What
anything
is
you
it?
wanted to address first. Um, the uh, the testing of cosmetics on animals, animal testing. Obviously, it's
Yeah. Let's
been
come back to that in a second, because
of
I did
course,
think of
certainly,
that, and I did maybe want to spend a little bit of time on it. Um,
certainly.
so let's try to wrap up the entire theme, and let's answer that first and last question. What is achieved and what is the overall goal? So let's, before we get into that aspect of it, which that's what we'll close on. Let's try to make our closing statements on generally everything that's been discussed here, and any holes in what has been discussed that you think need to be addressed, anything that needs a little bit more detail, anything like that, and more specifically in answering those two questions, what is achieved by that? Because I think obviously we've established that there is something to be said about confidence as a specific thing that, and maybe we could even dive a little bit more as a bit of a tangent on that into what it means to somebody who is transgender or just queer in general, using that as a method to combat depression or suicidal tendencies, things to keep them going, as you said, Veronica, the thing that's going to keep you going for at least one more day, and then maybe we could address some bigger issues. Um, and using that essentially to uh, give you a level of confidence to be able to go out into the world and do what you need to do. So, does anybody have any broader thoughts on all of that?
No, I think so. I feel like we've generally covered it all. But yeah, I can definitely say I can't really uh relate to the makeup side of things, but I definitely feel more confident in myself with with my tattoos, for example, and I know that I'll feel even more confident were I to get some more in the future. Um, Also, like if I've recently just had a haircut, or I've gotten more of a workout routine, or whatever it may be, I would, you know, I can imagine it would be like a similar feeling. Uh, and it's obviously very important to feel confident in yourself. So if you want to use a bit of makeup to do that, I think have at it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think confidence sums it up, and like self-confidence and self-worth. Excuse me, dog. Uh I think that's what it comes down to. And there can be like underlying reasons for why you think that way or feel that way, but if it makes you feel good and you're not hurting anyone, that's all that matters.
Okay. Joel.
Um, yeah, Smartsy actually said something in chat. They said something about uh, how smaller businesses do a better job of catering to people in the community and transgender people in terms of makeup and things, and it made me think of something else, um, or reminded me of something I thought of earlier, which is that we're all in agreement, it seems, that we're feeding this big industry which thrives on making people feel like shit when we could probably and should probably just feel good about ourselves naturally. But it makes me wonder, even if that industry didn't exist and makeup wasn't a big thing, if people would still do it, and why, if it wasn't a self-confidence thing, like tattoos, for example. I don't think a lot of people that have tattoos require tattoos to be confident or to feel good about them. Well, it is to feel good about themselves, but it's not to keep themselves from being depressed or suicidal more often than not. Maybe in some extreme cases, somebody who's maybe has some kind of mental illness that is maybe some kind of imposter syndrome. Maybe they need tattoos to feel a part of something, but typically speaking, that's just a vanity thing that people decide, oh, I want this on me, and that is permanent, unlike makeup. So I'm one of those people. I want to be covered in tattoos. If it wasn't so damn expensive, I might be already. uh
100%.
So I'm asking everybody. Do you think makeup would still exist and we still do it if it wasn't a confidence thing? If
I
it was,
think so. I mean, going back to the original roots of it, you know, it was used for stage. It was used
Mm,
for identifying like the wealthier people in a community. Um,
you know,
they used it all the way back to into the Roman Empire. So I think it'd still be a thing.
you know,
You know, they use different. They'd find something else. They'd find a different, formulation.
right.
Based on those broader perspectives of the entire conversation, and is there any, because I hadn't really thought about that until you said the word vanity. Is there anybody that sees any type of self-destructive issue? In other words, here, let me reframe that in a slightly different way. Um, I'm depressed. I'm going to drink because that's how I've chosen to cope with the depression. But in the end, just drinking, becoming an alcoholic or whatever is going to harm me. It's a form of destructive self care that in the end is going to be uh, more trouble than it's worth in attempting to, uh, as you said, Veronica, just get through another day to make it and continue on. Same with smoking, same with drugs, any of that stuff. Does anybody see in makeup, in doing that form of presenting yourself as something other than what you really are, as a uh, destructive end to coping with stress, depression, anxiety, suicidal tendencies?
I don't think so. Unless you're on an outside extreme case where you're so obsessive about it, you're spending like hundreds or even thousands of dollars on makeup and then you know, they release some like new mascara and it's like it's designer and it's like $150 or, and you're like wasting money on it. I don't really see that it would necessarily be scotty. There's no physical harm in it. You could argue you could waste too much time on it. I don't know, but compared to your other examples of say drugs or alcohol, I don't see that it was necessarily harmful in that regard.
Okay, so comparatively to some of these other forms that are more readily recognized as destructive, it probably doesn't hold the
Hmm.
same weight, you're saying, right?
Yeah, I feel like there's nothing that comes to mind certainly.
Okay. Veronica?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can think of would be the monetary aspect of it. If you're spending all of your money on makeup and not paying your bills, I think that'd be an extreme case. But
Okay. All right. So, as I said, we'll go ahead back now to the other aspect that you just mentioned. I had thought of it earlier. It just didn't naturally come up in the flow of the conversation, and that is the testing of uh, makeup and makeup products on animals. That, I mean, it was extremely prevalent in the industry up until I'd say the mid 80s, and it is when you started having some backlash against
Hmm.
companies. And since then it's gone way down, but we still see some companies doing that despite that, because they may still find a market for people that just don't give a shit or haven't heard, or the uninformed, or whatever the case may be. So let's go ahead and talk about that briefly. uh is Niv, you want to start?
Yeah, no, I was just curious when I was reading about it. So I found this. I don't know what the the source of this is on Wikipedia. So I always use Wikipedia as a source of information, but also keep it in the back of my mind that everyone in the world has access to edit it. So
Right.
so I'll take everything with a grain of salt. But generally speaking, I just apparently 2019 estimated 50 to 100 million animals
Isnib, hold on a
tested year.
Isnib, hold on a second. We're having a little bit of internet issue.
Okay.
Give me a second. Let me see if I can make some changes to this for your. Okay, we're starting to break up there. That's good. Give me a second. I'm gonna close out Discord and restart it and see if that makes a difference. We'll be right back. Hold on.
Charlie Brown's teacher.
Yeah. Wah, 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 wah. I do that. Yeah, I don't know if we're having a little bit of an internet issue or what. It was starting to break up there. I haven't dropped any frames, but okay, let's try that now. I think we mostly have it resolved. You want to go ahead?
Okay, cool. Yes. Yeah, sorry. So I found this on Wikipedia. I was just alluding to the fact that I generally will take things as facts for what I read on there, but with a grain of salt.
Right.
I don't know. But anyway, this apparently in 2019 there was an estimated between 50 and 100 million animals that are tested on each year around the world for cosmetics. Animals in tested labs. And apparently it's I think of like mice and rats as being the primary one. But also use it, monkeys, dogs, and guinea pigs among the creatures.
Yeah, hold on a second. As soon as you started getting into the numbers, it went wonky again.
Are we sure he's not a robot and he's not malfunctioning?
Yeah, what the fuck? My God.
Do you want me to disconnect and again?
Yeah, it might be on your end. Well, I mean, I was getting screwy video on Veronica's thing too, so it's probably on my end. But
sometimes if you're in a call for a while, get a bit weird, but you drop and join again.
Yeah, you try that, and we'll see. See what it does.
I have returned.
Oh no. Yeah, it's got to be on my end because we're not getting anywhere. But we'll try again at this point. So let's try one more third time. Just go straight for the numbers.
Third time lucky here, folks. Yes, between every year, it's estimated between 50 and 100 million animals are tested on around the world for cosmetics research. Those animals include, initially I think of mice and rats being the primary ones. They also apparently test on rabbits, monkeys, dogs, guinea pigs, and anything else that can get their hands on. Aside from the ethical quandaries of that, I guess that's what I wanted to discuss. Like, how do people feel about that? One would say, why do they need to test so many animals? You know what I mean? If they like, we've got a batch of mice in to do all the cosmetics for 100 mice, that'll do. 50 and 100 million. It just seems like, are there even that many cosmetic products? I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I don't know how they do these tests. but it seems a lot. Do you know what I'm saying? That's kind of the point I'm making.
Yeah, yeah,
And I
and
want to take an over immoral stance on this, like cruelty to animals. I feel it is cruel because I'm a meat eater. I eat any meat I eat. It's probably factory farmed meat. It's not hunted or necessarily organic. So I can't
Oh, there he
take
goes.
a massively moral stance to that. And just also to note that there are specific cosmetic companies that purposefully source and brand themselves, produce cosmetics that are specifically not have not been tested on animals.
yeah,
And also, this is interesting. There's no in Europe, UK and Europe is there's nationwide bans. There is, it's against the law to test cosmetics on animals, but not against the law to sell those cosmetics or buy them. The testing itself cannot happen here legally. Whereas it seems to be the United States and China are the two main countries where there is no banning of that testing and it's perfectly legal. I just found that interesting.
yeah. I do know that in the U.S. it greatly declined, and that a lot of the major cosmetic companies have just simply taken um, vows, essentially, that they're not going to do testing on animals, and but they use it as a selling point. They're just trying to prove to a market that they feel is going to respect them as a company more and want to use them as a company more if they don't do testing on animals,
Mm.
to then say, "Oh yeah, this is us." So that we're a brand you can trust, and you can buy us. Yeah, we had the electronic kind of warbly version of is going through that, but I think we got the
Yeah.
majority of it. It came out fairly decently. But I mean, the main takeaway from that is 50 to 100 million animals. Now that's worldwide.
Mm.
And you were saying, okay, so you've got a ban on testing on animals in the UK, but that doesn't prevent them from testing elsewhere and selling those
Mm.
products through
100%.
foreign exchange. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, that's serious. I mean, yeah, and that goes to any type of product. If a company has some kind of ethical issue with uh, for example, that testing their products on animals just to see if they're safe for human consumption, um, maybe that company needs to re-examine how they do business. Um, but yeah, I think for the most part, that's the driving factor in all of this is what will the market sustain? Can we get away with as a company testing on animals and the people aren't going to say a lot about it, and then there's always maybe the potential fallout that somebody goes, oh, you should see what this company is doing, and then that goes viral or something, and then that company is over with.
Mm.
Veronica, did you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just basically a lot of the major companies have tried to switch over, and some of the smaller companies do as well. But it is definitely used as a marketing tactic, as they can say, oh, we're socially conscious, we're not testing on animals, we're trying to do better.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
And you feel that's used more as for the literally as a selling factor rather than they actually care.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that they probably foresee down the line regulation coming.
Yeah. Yeah. So just trying to get in there early. Yeah.
Get ahead of it, get the market
Yeah.
share.
It's not to say that every single person who works at a company like that doesn't care as such, but as a corporate entity, they're making a decision for their long term in profits and investment. This will be a good smart thing for us to do now, so let's do this. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to set up a poll real quick for anybody in chat.
Hey, do you love rabbits and puppies? And do you also not feel as beautiful as our models? Buy our shit.
I mean, you got to imagine some of the psychology. The psychology behind advertising is insane to begin with. But you have to imagine some of the psychology behind the fashion and makeup industry in particular, how they are marketing themselves, I think, primarily to young women, because that's going to make up the stock of their market no matter what happens on any sexual identity front. That's still only going to be a very small portion of their market. So how do they actually present themselves and do this advertising in order to try to get people to buy their products, specifically young women?
Oh, no, that's why you have different product lines for different pockets of people.
Yeah.
And that was the whole discussion, is that anybody that identifies as a woman, young, old,
Okay, so what I'd like to do is do a real quick poll here while we're starting to finish up. And basically, what I'd like you to do, and you guys can do it too, contributors and Joel, answer the poll. How important to your makeup purchases is info on animal testing? If you don't purchase makeup, answer the question as if you would purchase makeup, and like how important to you is it that you find out whether or not that company does animal testing before you make that purchase. So let's have that going. And in the meantime, I'm actually going to switch over. You know what? No, give me a second here because I need to. I'm going. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take one more quick commercial break while I set one thing up that I failed to do so before the show. So stay tuned. We'll be right back in 1 second. Okay. So at the end of the poll here, we have 43%. We had basically 7 people answer. 43% said somewhat important, and then 29% each for very important or not that important. So seems like, I mean, obviously, nobody in our small survey sample has selected not important at all. So there's some level that you care about it, but most people are, I'd say, above the 50% mark in saying that when they do that, they actually seek out and want to find information and make sure the company is doing that. So that's kind of interesting. Any comments, guys, on how that fleshed out?
No, that's what I would imagine roughly would the result would have been. I doubt there's anybody in our community or anybody we know, or possibly anybody at all. If you pose that question to them, it's like, nah, screw those animals. I mean, unless you work in that industry, potentially. But
Right.
I think there's a balance between people who are trying to be absolutely ethical and people who are maybe a bit more pragmatic, and we all kind of fall somewhere within that spectrum. I don't think any of us would say don't care at all.
I was gonna say I'll be transparent with my vote, and the reason is not because I don't care about animals. I was in the somewhat, it was the second one, the lower tier. And that is because it dawned on me, any makeup or nail polish that I have bought, I never even checked to see if it was, I just went for the cheapest
You just
option.
went and bought it.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. And so I'm being realistic. I wanted that vote to be represented.
Yes, then that's what I was looking for.
Yeah, the only one, but it's not always something somebody considers. And I fucking love animals. Everybody I know loves animals to bits. But that's not always on your mind when you're in the dollar store going, oh, I need some more black nail polish.
Yeah.
And especially if you're not aware of how prevalent animal testing still is.
Well, that would
if you kind of expect that the companies that you're going to buy from or that's available on the market don't do that because
I would say more
everybody
people
pretty
though
much agrees. But if you don't
are aware.
actually hold those companies accountable by seeing what they're actually doing, and it might be hidden, that's kind of difficult to see sometimes too, what companies are doing because they hide it or they market it in a different way, and not everybody is out there trying to figure out what companies are doing, so they're presenting that to the public.
Yeah.
So you may not have the information readily available if a company is doing that, or
Yeah, they're not going to advertise, oh, we killed 50 rabbits on their bottle.
Right. In testing this product, we only killed 50 rabbits. Yeah.
That would be an advertising point. Said, we had 100, 50 survived, buy my shit.
Yeah. You're certainly not going to get that information unless you're actively looking for it. So, yeah. Smartsy, I do have to take exception to you. I'm not diminishing the fact that people who identify as feminine are going to be using those products. Okay, I'm not doing that at all. So please don't paint me as that. I'm trying to say that, relatively speaking, that still is going to comprise a very small amount of what that market is going to be. For the same reason that most of the polls that are relatively unbiased, that talk about like what the percentages of people that identify as something other than basic binary male and female is still under 4% of the population. And most people don't. So I'm not trying to diminish in any type of way what that represents and who those people are and what they do. I'm just saying, from a market perspective, companies are still primarily going to be marketing towards somebody that is a young female and readily identifies that, biologically speaking, mentally speaking, all of that. And they're not necessarily going to be marketing specifically towards anybody that is transgender or queer. Okay, I just want to be on the same page with you. That's all. All right. So any final statements as we wrap up? Anything anybody wants to say before we close out here?
Not final statement necessarily. Just one little fact I'll throw out about when we're talking about the different countries that allow animal testing and or the sale. There's only one single country in the whole world, which is Australia, which completely bans the sale of cosmetics that are tested on animals. You can buy those cosmetics tested on animals everywhere else in the world. It's only Australia that's stepped up and said, no, we're not having this at all. So good on you, Australia.
Australia. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But yeah,
so,
sorry.
And is that was that a from what you saw there in your information, was that like a full ban, no testing, no sale of products,
testing,
nothing?
no sale, no buying or selling at all? Yeah.
So then my question would be, if everybody is against testing, or the overwhelming majority of people is against animal testing, why wouldn't they go to their representatives in the legislature and say, we demand a law that says no, exactly like Australia has?
People, although they care, they don't care enough. And that's not a detriment.
Or their representatives aren't listening.
Indeed, Sky. Or generally, or even just that's like one thing out of a million things any
trust me,
living human has to worry about. So,
As inane as it actually is, I was so happy to hear that the United States Congress passed a law that they're doing away with daylight savings time.
Wow!
I think it's after this fall we fall back to where it normally is. So we're in standard time, and then it won't change in the spring. So thank fucking God for that. All right, Veronica or Joel, any last statements here?
I hate rabbits.
I think we had a pretty, I think we had a pretty good uh, sum up of everything.
Okay. All right. All right, so real quickly, coming attractions on the EBC channel here. I did not put it together. I forgot what the hell I did with my graphics. So before this event that's on your screen right now, Tuesday, October 4th, the 1 year anniversary of the EBC channel. So I actually started well over a year ago, but this was on October 3rd, actually, of last year, 2021, is when I recognized the premiere of the EBC channel, and we premiered The Devil's Gift. And that was an audio drama with Isnib and Angledoom and Watch Whitney. So on Tuesday, October 4th, we're going to be celebrating the 1 year anniversary of the premiere of the EBC channel. I'm going to have some new content for you. We're going to have the cast in on screen and in chat to do commentary as we re-watch and re-listen to The Devil's Gift, and we'll have some more information for you. So that will be Tuesday night, starting at 7 p.m. So appreciate y'all if you can stop by for that. I know Squidge is going to be in bed because she's an old woman and she has to get up early and all that good stuff. So she can watch the VOD. I think I'll leave it up for maybe a day just in case anybody wants to catch it. But yeah, it will be our 1 year anniversary, and it's going to be a great time. Then Wednesday, I am starting now because it's Spooktacular October. 4 weeks of our DMCA Nope series in the Conflux with scary movies, some of the scariest movies that I could find on the list. We're going to start with Silent Hill. And if you've not seen that, I highly recommend it. The first time I saw it was absolutely fantastic. Now you might have some little conniptions about the differences between that and the game. I thought this movie was so very well done as a horror movie that I hope you would come to see it if you haven't. If you have seen it and you want to see it again, we'll have that for free for you in the Conflux Discord, exclusively in the Conflux, 7 p.m. on Wednesday night. And there will be more horror to follow all the month of October. Then Sunday, October 9th, is going to be my next Before the Politics show. It's only the second one that I've done here. The first one we did way back in July, and I just haven't been able to schedule it. I've been chomping at the bit almost to address the subject of abortion and abortion rights. And remember, this is before the politics. So we're not actually going to be talking about abortion and abortion rights. We're going to be talking about the things that I believe somebody should consider before you make any type of decision in that political topic venue. Before you decide what your stance on abortion should be, there are questions I think you should answer, and that's what we're going to be discussing. So stop on by for that. It should be exceedingly boring, and hopefully you will not enjoy it. Then I wanted to draw attention to what's happening on Cage's channel on Saturday, October 15th. If you've never seen this, this is going to be a treat. Live playing of the board game Nightmare. If you've never seen it, it's a fantastic thing. Very scary, very spooky. And Cage will have some very special guests in-house to play the game live for you. So mark that on your calendars, Saturday, October 15th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And I will, just in case you don't know who the fuck Cage is, nobody knows who he is. He's incognito, but go follow him. Your life depends on it. And you can see the live playing of Nightmare. And then finally, our next episode of Arcade, that's season 2, episode 2, we're going to have a horror game genre roundtable. We're going to have a couple of guests, including, I believe, Angledoom, I believe Witch Whitney, I believe Or no, I know for a fact we're gonna have Rageful Riot OG and his girlfriend Ravenmer are gonna be there, and maybe a few potential others we got to see. But we're just gonna be discussing the entire horror game genre, past, present, and future, for our next episode of Arcade, and that will be Sunday, October 16th. I believe it's going to be at 5 p.m. That might change, but it should be the where, yeah, that time and place and thing, and yeah, and all that. So I believe that's it. All right, well, thank you all for joining us tonight. I appreciate you coming out. Isnib, what do you have coming up on your channel?
We are slowly plugging our way through Dragon Age Inquisition. I don't know what is coming up in the future after that game. That'll be whatever the producers, my patrons, decide. It's entirely up to them. Special event we've got coming up at some point. Legion Cage has agreed to collaborate with me on my stream. We're going to be reading a Choose Your Own Adventure book series, or as many as he wants to do. He might not like it, but he's at least willing to give the first one a go. That is planned for Thursdays, the regular time of my stream. I don't know which Thursday. That's up to Cage. I know he's a very busy gentleman, so sometime in the near future, hopefully we'll get that underway. I'm very excited about it. Could be a lot of fun. It could be the best thing we've ever done on the channel. You'd have to wait and see.
Yeah, Cage is a busy individual. Busy like a fox! But no. Yeah, Cage, you work too much. Quit working too much, man. Yeah. That's, whatever. Anyway, okay, so that and the thing, and, I wanted to ask, do you have, any inkling whatsoever, like, what was the last conversation you had with Steph and/or Murr about finishing Borderlands?
I don't know. Several months ago, I said, "No rush. You let me know when you're available."
And we never saw them again.
They're not available, Scotty. What can I do? So yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll finish it one day, but you know.
Okay.
They've got better things to do,
How far did you get?
I don't know. Probably fairly close to the end of the main story, but I'm sure there's like DLC. So overall, I would probably imagine we're about roughly halfway through. But
that's in Borderlands 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you know, it's fine. You know, I don't. You know, I don't hold any of my friends for anything. You know, if they want to do a thing, they'll do a thing. If they, they've got other things to do, that's fine. That's no problem.
Okay. I just wondered. That's kind of hilarious to me. Like, what the fuck are you people doing with time?
I mean, you know me, Scotty. I'm a completionist. I like to finish something I've started
Right.
for the most part. But you know,
And
there's an exception to every rule.
And they don't.
You know. Well, I mean, you know, maybe they got out of it what they wanted out of it. You know what I'm saying? But
okay. All right, and short and sweet. What's happening on your channel and stuff and things?
Probably like nothing for the next 2 weeks, honestly. Yeah, we're leaving for California on Wednesday. We won't be back until the following Tuesday.
You're not taking me. What the hell?
I know. I'm sorry. You said you don't like concerts.
No. Okay,
but,
so you're
we will
going to be gone from Wednesday to Sunday-ish?
Wednesday to Tuesday.
Wednesday to Tuesday. Okay.
Yeah. So, further out, we will be going back to Paper Mario and Disney Dreamlight Valley, and we've got some more stuff, but a lot of, all of the collaborations going on. It's just busy.
Yeah. Yeah, including mine and the Nightmare stuff and all sorts of, we did the streamer sync last night, which was a hoot. If you didn't get a chance to see that, go check out Cage with his rambunctious hosting abilities there, and it was
rambunctious panel.
It was a good time. Yeah, it was, but it was great fun, and I can't wait for the next episode. I'm gonna tell just like Betty White, I'm gonna be the one person who's always a panelist, always down in the bottom right corner. And
no, I'm Betty White.
You're Betty White, okay.
I'm Betty White.
Doom is Betty White. There's no doubt about that. Okay. But yeah, I can't wait for the next one. So hopefully we'll be able to put another one together. That's a with everybody's work schedules and everything else, so
Mhm.
that's tough to put together to have
Yeah, it's hard.
not only six panelists and the host, but also
Contestants,
four
yeah.
contestants. So we're talking about 11 people on screen in the same stream, and everybody's schedule all jiving with that just to make that work. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of rough, but we'll try to make it as available as possible. I personally, I've been looking at some various job opportunities to try to get out of Uber, and if willing, I get what I actually want. It's going to be a Monday through Friday third shift, so then I can pretty much be available for anything, But we'll have to see what that turns into. So, all right, we're gonna go raid Mr. Wrong because it's his 30th birthday and also 2-year anniversary. So, like, it's a double whammy. He is streaming and celebrating his 30th birthday and 2-year anniversary here on Twitch. Mr. Wrong 842. So go give your love to Mr. Wrong and tell him thanks for the llama and the burritos. He's gonna know what that is. That's an inside joke. He's not gonna know at all, but I'm setting you up for failure. So have fun with that. But in the meantime, thank you guys for joining me. We'll see you later. Don't do anything I wouldn't do because, well, I'm not gonna do that shit, and Short and Sweet isn't gonna do that shit, and Isnib isn't going to do that shit, and nobody's gonna do that shit. Nobody in the fucking world is doing that shit. So why is anybody still talking about it? I don't know why this is such a huge fucking issue and nobody knows what the fuck they're talking about. Nobody's doing any shit. So stop it. You hear me? Just stop it. Thank you. I love you. Good night.